New Canadians are finding employment and earning more money at a faster rate than they did a decade ago, according to a new report from Statistics Canada. In 2023, their unemployment rate plummeted to 6.6%, down from 12.1% in 2010. Recent male immigrants earned 13.4% less than Canadian-born workers in 2020, which is a significant improvement from 19.9% in 2015. Joining us now to dive deeper into these findings is reporter Meagan Gillmore. Meagan, welcome back to Forum Daily.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
These are some positive developments. How has the current job market played a role in improving outcomes for these immigrants?
Sure. And Statistics Canada does talk about that a fair bit in this report, even talking about like how the pandemic influenced things. But one of the main takeaways that is a more general one, not just specific to pandemic change and all those things, is that the job market in Canada is really looking for more skilled workers. And because there's more new immigrants that are also highly skilled, it's easier to find that match between a highly skilled immigrant and a job that meets their skills and their credentials.
And so what changes have been made to the immigration system that have contributed to that? Because obviously that skills matchup is important, but what's changed in terms of how we process immigrants that have created these better outcomes?
Right. So one of the things that's mentioned is the Express Entry program, where immigrants are given points based on their education level, their job experience, their language proficiency in English or French. Clearly, I'm struggling with proficiency for that word. But people are ranked with how they do on those criteria, and then that helps determine who will be accepted as an immigrant to Canada.
And so you mentioned the point system, and you've also mentioned the skilled labor. Does Statistics Canada get into what skills in particular Canada as a whole is looking for? What type of skilled labor are we talking about?
Yeah, that's a really great question. This report doesn't really delve into that. It talks about skilled versus unskilled labor very generally. What it does spend more time talking about is temporary foreign workers and how a larger number of individuals who are receiving permanent residency have been temporary foreign workers in Canada. And I believe more than 30% of new immigrants, so people who've had their PR given to them within the past 10 years, were temporary foreign workers in Canada. And what that means is they already have experience with the Canadian job market. They may already have they've had jobs here. They may have a job offer, and it's easier then for them to integrate into the job market, and they're starting at a higher level than immigrants decades ago. So some people I spoke to for this would say, decades ago, when somebody came to Canada from another country, they didn't have any experience with this country. Now, that's not necessarily the case. We have people who've been students here, we have people who've worked here, and they're automatically starting at a bigger advantage than they were, say, 20, 30 years ago.
And so would it be safe to say, based on your reporting, that there's a level of integration built into that pathway from temporary foreign worker to permanent resident?
For some people, yes. And people who work in this field would want to note that this is not every new immigrant to Canada, right? We still have people who come to Canada who don't have mass proficiency in English or French. They may not have previous work experience here. So yes, there needs to be better integration for them. But we are seeing an increased integration between people who were international students who then become permanent residents, or people who were temporary foreign workers and are now permanent residents.
Yep. You mentioned international students. That's a hot political topic these days. Are we seeing the same trend with international students? That same type of pathway where they may come to study here and then end up staying in Canada and having the same success that we've seen with other immigrant groups?
For some, this report specifically that we're talking about that was released last week does not delve into that as much, and that's an area that immigration researchers would like to see more data around. So I think anecdotally, we've all said, hey, I've seen, international students who are here and working, but that's not the case for everyone, right? So I think that is something from a policy perspective that more data and research needs to be done about.
Meagan, thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.